Hey, Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning, all. Hey, Paul, how are you, man?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. All right. It's my understanding that you're taking the lead today.
I am. Yes. Thanks.
Okay. I'm sure you've been through a couple of these, so
Yep.
all right. Cool. Miss Santiago, are you there?
You're on. Yep.
Oh, Miss Oliver just texted she's going to be a few minutes late. Miss Darrow Ledger will also be joining. And Miss Brody should be joining. We know Chairman Rigger is away on vacation, so he won't be able to join. I'll check on a few more. Oh, and Miss Escobar is also away and won't be able to join.
Okay. Just let me know when we're good to go.
Okay.
Vice Chair Johnson, do you want to wait a couple more minutes? Just wondering if you want to get started or wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I certainly don't mind getting started. I just wanted to make sure we had at least, one or two other board members on. If that's not the case, then we certainly can move forward. So I'm just going to look to Christina to see what the status is of other board members. If not, then I'm completely okay with moving forward.
Yeah, a few indicated they're going to be a few minutes late. So I don't know if you want to give it one more minute and then get started, because I know we have a lengthy agenda today.
I'm going to be gracious and give it one more minute, and then we'll get started. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Christina, let me know when we are ready. We good to go, Christina? Live, recorded, ready to go?
I am so sorry. I've been talking all this time on mute. Okay. Yes, we are live and streaming. And I was just saying for house rules, if you would like to stay off camera until your item is up, that might be helpful for Board Chair Johnson to find questions.
Yeah, and I'm certainly on my personal device and will be traveling to my office in just a moment. So if there are any questions, just Christina, keep an eye out and let me know. If I don't see it, don't be offended. It's just that I'm on a device that doesn't have everybody in one space. But with that being said, good morning to all. Thank you all so much for being on time to this meeting. And thank you all so much for being a part of the greatest school district in Connecticut and in the country. This morning, we are going to, I want to call this meeting, this committee of the whole meeting for August 8th to begin. And during this meeting, we are going to be talking about several contracts within the Hartford Public Schools. And the superintendent is not able to be here today, but we did hire a capable deputy, which I'm happy he gets his opportunity to be, in football, they call it the next man up, so he is the next man up. And we look forward to a successful meeting under his leadership. And our chairman, Phil Rigger, could not be here this morning as he is on vacation with his family. And so my name is Pastor A.J. Johnson, Vice Chair of the Hartford Board of Education. And at this moment, I am going to turn this meeting over to the capable hands of Mr. Paul Foster. Mr. Paul Foster, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for everybody for being here. We do have 5 items on the agenda, and our first one is we're going to get an update on construction relative to Kennelly, Wish, and Betances, and those are our projects. I believe we have some folks from the design and project management teams on the call, but I think to start the presentation, I'm going to hand it over to Chief Davis Googe.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Pelham, are you able to share your screen?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, Sherry, I can share my screen. One moment, please.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go ahead and start in an effort to make sure we stay on track. We are here today delivering on our commitment to share construction updates regularly. The agreement was to use these groups of schools to help the board and the community gain a fuller understanding of the cycle of construction. As Deputy Foster mentioned, we have quite a few folks here today that help us keep the project moving, but in an effort of time, we're going to do those introductions as we move through the presentation. So today we're going to provide some background on the three projects. We're going to give a very brief presentation on each one, and then we're going to open for questions. Next slide. So the three projects we'll be discussing today is Betances Learning Lab. It was originally constructed in 1924. The appropriation for that project at this time is 43.7 million. Kennelly, originally constructed in 1900. The appropriation there is 51.4 million. And Wish Museum School, 1962, appropriation is 49.3 million. At this point, I'm just going to pause to say, if we all recall, that these projects were a part of the special legislation that gives the city of Hartford and Hartford Public Schools, well, the city of Hartford, a 95% reimbursement rate, which is much higher than other districts, and that is tied to our district model of excellence. Next slide. So back in May of 2020, the Board of Education approved the educational specifications for each one of the schools. This is just the basic information that talks about why the school is in need of renovation. That application, along with the ed specification, is submitted to the Office of Construction at the state level. From there, the state approves that these projects are placed on a priority list. That priority list is then submitted to the state legislature, and they were approved to move forward as a construction project back in June 2021. So here with me today, I have Paul Drummy. He is the Director of Capital Projects and Operations for the City of Hartford. I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can share more about what has been completed to date.
Thank you, Chief Davis Gouge. Good morning, everyone. So to date, a few bullets in front of you.
Paul, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Chief Davis Gouge, thank you. Good morning, everyone. A few bullets I want to review with everyone. The first being the solicitation for owner's project management. These projects require an owner's project manager. They're just too large for the city and the Hartford Public Schools to handle on their own. So in January of 22, the city advertised for the services. In April of 22, the committee, which the Hartford Public Schools members were involved, reviewed the submissions for owner's project management, and the short list and award went to Collier's project leaders. After that, we kind of hand the baton to them to steer the ship, this massive ship of 3 schools to stay on schedule and get us moving along the way. So they in turn helped the city and Hartford Public Schools advertise for an architect as well as a construction manager. And in February of 23, both of these firms for all 3 schools, an architect and CM for each of the schools, were awarded the projects in February of 23. And then we start the programming and schematic design process, where at this point, I'd kind of like to hand it back over to Chief Davis Gouge to talk a little bit about the massive efforts that go into this particular bullet. Chief?
Yeah, thank you, Director Drummy. So it's important to note here that the programming and schematic design is based on input from a lot of folks, including obviously the school leadership teams, the district subject area experts, our operations teams, facilities, food services, transportation. We also partner with MHIS to make sure that our network information is shared. All these things work together to ensure that we are working to have standards across schools, continuity across schools, and just ensuring that we have the best product at the end that meets the need of our students and the community. So I'll kick it back, Paul, Director Drummy. I just thought it was important to note that this is like you shared, a massive effort that brings a group of folks together just to make sure that we are not missing anything during this great opportunity to renovate our schools.
Thank you, Chief David Scrooge. So next, the next bullet is schematic design, construction estimating. It has been completed and reconciled. So we use these owner agents, right? So we use our owner's project manager, Collier's project leaders. They steer the architect and CM firms. They have their professional cost estimators. At this level of design, schematic design, and the reason we're here today before you is we kind of get a realization of where the budget's going to land when we continue to design development and construction documents. So at this point, we realize that all three schools are trending about $20 million over budget. For so many different reasons, one being the escalation, pandemic, the supply chain issues, all of that. So that being known now, the city is taking the next steps to make sure that we continue with these projects and work with our partners up at the state to secure the additional funding needed to bring these projects to the finish line. So that's the estimating. The next bullet is the submission of the renovate as new packages to where we want to keep the existing structures, go in and really just remove everything down to the CMU walls and start new, and everything at the end of the day is going to be a brand new school minus the structural components of the facility itself. So we submitted 4 renovate as new packages, and we're waiting to hear from the state at this point to whether we are going to receive renovate as new status. Next bullet is the schematic design reviews completed by the advisory committees for each school, Kennelly, Betances, and Wish. We've had these meetings already, and after which I believe Chief David Scrooge has distributed that information to this group. And at this point, we're here to show we have the design teams and the owner's project manager with us. And I'm at this point handed over to Scott Pelham from Collier's project leaders to kind of talk about the next steps.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Pellman, Associate Director, Collier's Project Leaders. I'm joined this morning with Ray Wiley, project manager for these projects from our office. So I'm just going to briefly go through our next steps. Again, as Paul had mentioned, the 3 separate design teams have submitted the renovation packages. We're in the process of confirming all that information. Because there weren't architects on board when the grants were filed, there was some additional information that the state recognized needed to be submitted once we got them on board. So we've gone through that process, submitted that information, and we're just waiting for final confirmation. After this meeting, Ray has set up meetings for all 3 projects to meet with the state. This is part of the normal process. We bring the schematic design forward to the state. It's all about teaming with the state. It's a process. They're a team member as much as all of you and we are to move these projects forward. So it's really more of an informational session with them on all 3 projects. With our current status, and after this presentation today, we are proceeding on to design development, where we'll be getting better updates on the current project budgets, current market conditions, and design. The design team is also starting to develop early implementing packages for the summer of '24. 2 of the 3 schools are occupied, Betances and Kennelly. So what we mean by early implementing packages is they're going to be putting together work that can be done over the summer, some abatement work, creating some temporary classrooms, the things that will allow us to be able to start facilitating the renovation of those projects while the schools are occupied. So that's a real key element that the design teams are currently working on. A little bit easier on the Wish School. The Wish School is not occupied. So the early package next summer for the Wish School is going to immediately just start in with demolition and abatement required to achieve the project. With that, we will be looking to come back both in front of the building committee, in front of this group, the Board of Education. You've probably done it numerous times in the past with all your projects, approving an EDO 42, which is the approval to take the documents to the state so they can review them and we can go out to bid. So sometime end of this year, early January, we're probably going to be coming to you with those packages so we can get those approved. And you'll have quite a bit of information prior to those submissions. I touched on it a little bit in my what's next, but the schedule. Again, Betances Learning Lab School, we're anticipating construction start next summer of 24 with the implementing packages. Again, building is occupied and we're having anticipated completion ready, completed school for the fall session of 2027. Similar at the Kennelly School, anticipated start of construction 24, implementing package, again, building occupied, completion fall of 27. And the Wish School, we're looking to have that project completed in 2026. And again, the advantage, the reason we're able to complete that project a year earlier is it's not occupied. We don't have to phase it. We don't have to move the kids around and work through the school. So that's our anticipated schedule. We are on schedule to meet those deadlines, which were the deadlines that were proposed to us and to the construction manager and architects when the projects were put out to bid. I think based on Sherry's comments, if we can, we're going to hold questions to the end. I would like to introduce the three design teams quickly, allow them to do a brief presentation of their schematic design packages. Again, to the design teams, I'll say that, again, if you can keep it to 5 minutes. I know some of the presentations are a little longer than others. We'd like to start with Betances. The architect there is TSKP Studios. We will then move on to the Kennelly School, which is being designed by Tecton Architects. And finally, we'll finish up with the Wish School, which is being designed by JCJ. So I believe Julia McFadden and Diana Lancer are on from TSKP Studios. Julia, would you like to share a screen? I can stop sharing if that would be easier for you to move through your presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. I can share my screen. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Right. I think this will work. All right. Is everyone seeing my cover page? Yes, I see Sherry.
Yes.
Thumbs up. Great. Okay, as you see here, this was dated August 3rd. That's when we reviewed the schematic design with the advisory committee. We had reviewed it with the Betances School back in May, shortly before we finished up the schematic design. So I want to walk you through the program. I'll go over this part quickly so we can get to the plans, which are a little easier to review. But as Sherry said, we're looking to try to achieve as much kind of parity and consistency in square foot areas for classrooms, both within the school and across the district. I will say, as you may have noticed from the introduction, that the schools are built in different eras of construction, and you'll see shortly Betances being built in the 1920s is a big kind of heavy masonry 4-story building. We are limited by kind of the constraints of the existing structure. So we can demo kind of within the exterior walls and within the bearing corridor walls, and then try to achieve the square foot areas. So this school has, as you see here, 3 pre-K classrooms for 3-year-olds, 3 pre-K for 4-year-olds, 3 for kindergarten. Those classrooms all have a toilet in the classroom. And then we have 3 for first, second, third, and fourth grade as well. We have special education classrooms, a special ed classroom that serves the pre-K through first graders on the ground floor, a special ed classroom for the second through fourth graders on the third floor. This school also has health dental component. As you see here, it's patterned after the Martin Luther King Health and Dental Suite that has proven to be successful. We do then have,
I'm sorry,
yes.
Ms. McFadden.
Yes.
Just, we're running slow on time, so I think probably for this
Skip
group.
this.
Yep, we can, that information has been shared. Let's move to the good stuff.
All right. Thank you. Here's an aerial overlooking Betances. It's actually right in our neighborhood here on Charter Oak Avenue. You can see here the 4-story building. The current circulation has staff parking around 2 sides of the building. Buses and parents drop off on the street, as well as visitor parking on the street. It is a small constrained site, but we wanted to see what we could do to improve circulation. So what we proposed here is getting a bus loop kind of off of the left side. So coming off of Charter Oak, dropping off and circling onto the side street to ease a little bit of the congestion on Charter Oak. Existing site, as you see here, the gray is a lot of the current bituminous that we want to try to introduce a little bit more green space, which we're doing here in our site plan, kind of organizing the parking a little more efficiently. And then in the green space off to the left, getting 3 playground areas for the different age ranges. In front, we're also adding a new stair and ramp so that the historic front entrance is accessible. Currently, there's a small little module on the right side that is kind of like a back door, but it's the only accessible entrance. So we wanted to make accessibility kind of front and center, so to speak. Existing ground floor, which you see here, has a kitchen and cafeteria with easy access to service around the rear of the building. Pre-K classrooms were on this floor. And in the current layout, we were able to get all of the pre-K classrooms. Previously, some were up on the next floor. So the pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 classrooms, kitchen has been expanded to meet kind of current needs and modernized, and the cafeteria also gets expanded because we're putting an addition, very small addition. This is really the only kind of work to this building outside of the existing structure for a new mechanical room. Because we need to get a new mechanical room up and running while keeping the existing mechanical room running, because it's an occupied construction, and phase that in. So
Ms.
next floor.
McFadden, I am so sorry.
You still need me to move
it's okay.
faster?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'll
Maybe
just
we could
skip
just
over
go
the
to
existing and go
yes,
to the.
and go to the highlights of the new. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
quite all right. So next floor up, first floor, has, as you see here, the ceremonial stair comes in to a vestibule. We are recreating the ceremonial stair that was previously cut in half. So we're restoring that. So you come up the grand stair to this first floor, which has the auditorium and gymnasium, kindergarten classrooms, administration suite, the health dental suite, and art and music. Second floor up, first grade on the west side, second grade on the east side. We've created a new and expanded media center with an adjacent maker space. And then, as you see, a staff workroom, some other complementary spaces that are tucked in over the 2-story space above the auditorium and gymnasium. And then the final floor, third graders and fourth graders, with some of the special services to students included there. feedback that we got from the advisory group. Just some comments here. Sherry, should I go over these or not, do you think?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Everyone should have had the presentation. I think just for everyone, here's what we will do with this information is we're all going to take it back. If board members, if you certainly have any feedback based on the drawings or any questions, feel free to email me or Christina, and we will get back to you.
And that's,
Thank you, Julia. So trying to keep things moving, I think we're going to move on to Tecton. I think we have Ed Wadowski and Jeff Wazinski from Tecton Architects to present the Kennelly project. And again, gentlemen, if you can keep it very high level and keep things moving, we'd appreciate that. Ed or Jeff, I know you were on the call.
Yep, Eddie, I think you might be on mute, so unmute and you can.
Yeah, I was sorry. I went to share my screen and my unmute button disappeared on me. Sorry about that. Anyways, let's get going. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. This is the same presentation that we presented to the advisory committee on July 28th, just with a new title slide. Very quickly, so you can see the existing building was constructed in multiple different vintages. The original in 1900 in purple, added on to sometime between 1900 and 1922.
Excuse me, Ed, you haven't advanced the slide, I don't believe.
Oh, geez. Oh, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Here we go. I'm sorry. Give me just a second here.
There we go.
All right. I'm not sure
Sorry,
why
Ed,
that wasn't
time's
working.
up.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. I'm done. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
So as you can see, the different vintages here, very quickly from a program standpoint, we have 2 classrooms for pre-K, 3 each for kindergarten through 6th grade. 7th and 8th grade get a 4th classroom. I won't belabor all of this. Again, you have the information and can see the program. From the existing site, drop-off is essentially handled on White Street on the south side. It's a very busy intersection. As you can see, there's only 1 lane of travel in each direction. And so really no spot for buses to pull off. So when they stop, they basically block traffic. You have a staff parking lot that's entered from Monroe Street on the west side. You can see, I'll point out a couple of the elevation changes. There's quite a bit of grade differential as you go across the site. You see down here at about approximately 108, and it ramps up about another 25 feet as you go counterclockwise around the site plan. So the play yard is elevated here. There's a small retaining wall along Monroe Street. Parking for staff comes in here, and as you can see, there's a dead end condition here. There's a dead end also for White Street for the small lot for staff and visitors. You see a very sizable ramp here. The grade at this location is about halfway between the 1st and 2nd floors. So there's about a 5.5 foot ramp that brings you up to the main level of the building from the parking. So
Mr.
what we are
Wadowski?
proposed.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we, just for this presentation, can we just use the proposed plan slides and then just talk about the improvements based on from the
Absolutely.
existing? Thank you.
Yep. So you can see what we're proposing, a few different pieces, is an actual dedicated cut in for bus drop off along Monroe Street to be able to get that traffic off of White and give them a dedicated spot where traffic can pass by the buses. You can see we've moved the staff parking here directly adjacent to the street to create a full drive-through so that there is no longer a dead end. And by flipping the play area with the parking, we now have the ability to have the connection to the play areas directly from the building without students having to cross vehicular traffic. We are actually filling in. There's quite a bit of excess soil that's going to be generated from this work that we'll use to fill in the lot along Cheshire Street. And what that will do is allow now grade entrance to be able to take place directly at grade, and also to provide a drop off here for parents. So again, eliminating that dead end condition. You can see we are doing a new addition that basically hugs along the north side of the building, creating a new protected internal courtyard, and we are taking down the existing cafeteria addition that was built in 1993. All right, so I won't go into the existing plans. I will show you that the gym is currently undersized in terms of both length and width. So we are filling in the floor area here where there were permanent bleachers to be able to get the width that we need in the gym. We are also extending our addition, extends the gym to the north so we get the proper length. You can see we've moved kitchen and cafeteria out here to be able to, currently kitchen and cafeteria are down here, so deliveries have to come all the way down inside into the well of the building. We're trying to get that a little more to the forefront. We are looking at shifting the cafeteria to the end of the building so that you're not faced with the mechanical room. As you can see, we have art and music here. A new boiler room and central plant that will allow the existing area to be infilled and turned back into program space. We've really tried to organize the building in terms of using the west and the east wings for classrooms with specials and core spaces in the middle. So you see pre-K, K, and first all clustered together here on the first floor, leaving the iGoal classroom for students with special needs. That works well with having the basically pick up and drop off directly on White Street. And then we've layered the middle school really in this wing of the building with 6 on the first floor, 7th above, 8th above that. You see the resource and media center here. Move you upstairs. So again, this is the new reconfigured entrance. You'll come right in to the main office immediately with great visual supervision of both the parking lot along Cheshire and then the drop off along White. We have community spaces here used for service providers for the community for different functions after hours, a secondary administrative suite to supervise this section of the floor. And again, you see this is the remainder of the lower school classrooms, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all clustered together with 7th grade here. You see a shared prep room with a full service lab for the science for 8th graders with fume hood and gas. That also allows different, because it's a shared prep room, it allows a little bit different functions for the 7th grade science classroom, which will be more of a conventional. Yep, just about done.
I am so sorry. We're
go ahead.
We're at time.
We're done.
Okay, thank you so much.
So
we got one more, right, Mr. Pullman?
Yes, we have one more. We have, I believe, Bruce Kellogg and Fawn Pellegrini from JCJ Architects. So we're throwing the gauntlet down to you guys to see if you can get this one done in under 5. So if you're ready to present your presentation, Bruce.
We are. Fawn will be presenting.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
All right, wonderful. So I'll skip over the space summary. I think that's already been discussed through Hartford Public School District. But essentially what the space summary enabled us to do is confirm with Hartford Public Schools and the Wish School principal and vice principal that yes, in fact, the new program does fit within the existing Fred D. Wish Museum School. This is the existing site. It is on the corner of Barber and Kensington Street in Hartford. Something to note is that the north is to the left of your screen and south is to the right of your screen. I'm going to point out some items that we heard were challenges very quickly so you understand the proposed site. On Kensington, so starting on the south, the Kensington curb cut is currently blocked off. The 2 parking lots are connected and that is causing a congestion at that connection point. All traffic enters Barber Street curb cut. That's buses, staff parking, as well as parent pickup and drop off. There is an existing playground structure in the front of the school next to the service area where trucks are providing deliveries. And last but certainly not least is the Circus Fire Memorial, which is on our site. There is a pathway with plaques, and the center point of the tent is noted with the memorial. Please note there are existing trees that are in the shape of an oval. The oval was not completed currently because of the play blacktop space. Grade, which is your land, is relatively flat where there's parking and the school, but it drops off significantly after the school as you move north. The proposed site, we worked with Hartford Public Schools and the Wish School folks to address some of the challenges they had, finding opportunities for improvement. Again, starting on the south, to the right side of the screen, we opened up the curb cut at Kensington Street so that this is now dedicated to staff parking as well as the bus loop. We also created a sidewalk between the two parking spaces so that there isn't that congestion occurring between the two. The curb cut on Barber Street is now dedicated to parent drop off and pickup as well as staff. Visitor parking. The curb cut, the second curb cut on Barber remains the service area. However, it's been improved to handle the size of the delivery trucks coming to the site. And you'll notice that the play structure is now removed in the front of the school and located in the back of the school next to the hardtop play area. Easier oversight for teachers. In addition, we would like to celebrate the Circus Fire Memorial by preserving the curve on the west side. So again, as I noted, the trees create the curve of the tent on the east. We wanted to bring that curve back into the site with the design of the blacktop and play structures. There is a pre-K and K play structure right off of those classrooms, as well as a produce garden. This is the existing floor plan.
I'm sorry, Fawn, can you pass the existing and just give us the
Sure.
highlights on the, thank you.
Sure. So renovate is new. We wanted to keep as much as the structure as possible, as was previously noted. Right here, if you can see my cursor, is the main entrance. We have adjusted that slightly, opened it up to be more welcoming. Admin and nurse and dental is right at the front. If you proceed to the right and go down the south wing, the pre-K, K, and first grade, as well as all of those support spaces in pink that those students will use, are on the first floor as recommended by the building code. The gymnasium and auditorium has a sloped floor. Those spaces remain where they were previously because of trying to keep the existing structure. You now have a correctly sized kitchen and cafeteria space. Across from those are your library, media, and art rooms. Music is located next to the auditorium, somewhat separated from the academic spaces because of noise. On the second floor, we have two learning communities. In the south wing, we have the second and third grades and their support spaces. In the north wing, we have fourth and fifth with their support spaces. Because we have some additional square footage on the second floor, we were able to create what's called breakout spaces. Those are the spaces in gray off of the corridor in each learning community. Those are areas where teachers can have, or aides can have, one-on-ones with students. It's also a nice area at this age. They're typically begin to have group projects. So students can huddle in those spaces for group projects. It can be considered a reward for students if they're able to go into that space. And I believe that's it. The last slide is the comments and discussion topics from the advisory committee when we met with them last week.
Thank you, Fawn.
Yep. Thank you so much. Obviously, I think we could see that a lot of work has gone into these plans. Deputy Foster, I defer to you to see if there's any time for questions and answers.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I know Vice Chair, I don't certainly want to create space for questions if there are any coming from the board. We do have 4 more contracts we do want to get to.
You know, I think that let's just go ahead and and push through. And if board members have questions that they want to raise, just put them in the chat, just so we can go back to them. But I think this is a heavy lift, and I appreciate the time sensitivity and everyone rushing through something that is just so, so big. So let's keep going. If board members have questions, just throw it in the chat, and we can, at the end, just go through it.
Great, thank you. And we'll make sure to capture the chat so we can, respond to any questions that folks do have. And thank you, Chief Davis Googe and team. Clearly, a lot of work has gone in, and really appreciate all the thought and the work and being responsive to the site and the needs of the community. So we do have 4 contracts left. Before I hand it off to the next contract, I just want to say, I do want to create space for board members if there are questions on the 4 contracts that we have in front of you today. And so I'm going to ask those who are presenting the 4 contracts to really try to keep your overview to about 5 minutes so that we are creating some space. And I also don't want, the last couple contracts to get kind of shortchanged for time. So I'll give you a prompt in the chat privately if you're running out of time. And with that, I think our next contract on the agenda is Relay, and I'm going to hand that over to Dr. Curtis, one of our initiatives to really build our pipeline of talent. And so, Dr. Curtis, take it away.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to speak quickly, so I apologize in advance, but I'm really excited to talk about our Grow Your Own teacher pipeline that we have in Hartford right now. We can go to the next slide. So amidst teacher shortages nationwide, enrollment in traditional educator prep programs continues to decline. Many prospective teachers find the significant financial barriers of traditional prep programs too steep to enter. Barriers to enter traditional prep programs include cost, loss of full-time employment, and loss of benefits, which can be mitigated by providing financial support to staff members interested in participating in the Relay Connecticut program. Relay is a job-embedded educator prep program for staff members in partner districts. Staff members are able to maintain their full-time position while taking online evening classes and participating in clinical practice at their current work location. Despite being a job-embedded program, the out-of-pocket costs are still significant and prohibit participants from registering for or continuing classes. By providing financial support to the 23-24 cohort of candidates will result in up to 23 newly certified teachers here in HPS. These teachers in turn will make a 2 to 3 year commitment to teaching in Hartford Public Schools. Next slide. This teacher pipeline program is in an alignment with Priority 4, where OTM is seeking approval for a 1-year agreement to provide scholarships supporting the Relay Graduate School of Education participants. Next slide, please. Relay's programs prepare teachers and leaders to build a more just world where every student has a clear path to fulfilling life. Relay provides multiple pathways for staff to become certified in math, science, English, language arts, or elementary education. The master's and certification pathway is a 24-month program. Upon completion, participants should be eligible for an initial educator certification and will be awarded a Master's of Arts in Teaching. The postbaccalaureate pathway is an 18-month program. Upon completion, participants should be eligible for an initial educator certification. Both pathways provide support to participants throughout the certification process, including EdTPA and Praxis 2 preparation. Hartford Public Schools is responsible for assigning participants a team-trained mentor to serve as their resident advisor. HPS also attends biweekly check-ins with Relay Director of Partnerships to receive updates on participant progress, as well as selection for upcoming cohorts. HPS will attend additional check-ins for individual participants on an as-needed basis as we fully support each participant making it to the finish line. Next slide, please. Relay will provide a pathway to certification and development for non-certified staff members. Our partnership with Relay provides a valuable career ladder for non-certified staff including paraeducators, CDAs, and SSOs. First year Relay participants can expect to attend 3 virtual classes a week, 2 in the evenings and 1 on a Friday during the workday. As part of this partnership, HPS agrees to release participants from their normally assigned duties for 2.5 hours on Friday to virtually attend their clinical practice. The out-of-pocket tuition for the first year participants is $7,555 for after an AmeriCorps award. This out-of-pocket tuition for second year participants is a little bit lower at $5,855 as they carry a smaller course load. Next slide. Our current second year participants will be eligible to transition to their initial certification at the end of the 23-24 school year. At this time, HPS will have played a major role in the certification of 7 new elementary teachers, 1 chemistry teacher, and 1 ELA teacher. These are some of the hardest to fill areas. Through Relay, we have homegrown teachers who represent our students and are already a valuable part of our community. By breaking down systemic and financial barriers, Relay aids in the certification of a diverse cohort of educators. 63% of Hartford Public Schools Relay participants identify as people of color, compared to nearly 36% of new teachers in the school year of 23-24. Next slide. As Hartford Public Schools Grow Your Own program, Relay has graduated 28 participants. 22 of these individuals are still teaching in Hartford Public Schools. In the 22-23 school year, 85% of participants transitioned from non-certified roles to holding a resident educator certificate and being the teacher of record in their very own classroom. For school year 23-24, it is our goal to meet or exceed 85% of participants transitioning to a resident educator certificate or initial certification. And on to our last slide. OTM's goal is to recruit, retain, and support top talent. In alignment with priority 4 of the district's model of excellence, by offering scholarships to non-certified staff members seeking certification through Relay Connecticut, we will be able to support up to 13 first-year participants and 10 second-year participants. And I am done. Any questions? Yes. I see board member Ledger's hand.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the presentation. It was very thorough, very enlightening. The question that I have is, what is Relay doing to prepare participants for the praxis portion? Like, how much time is being spent and focused on that? Because I know that the praxis, that certification portion is very difficult and folks are struggling all over to pass that.
Thank you so much for that question, because you're right. We don't want to put or support someone to go through a program and then not be able to pass all the assessments for certification. I'm going to call Nancy into the space to answer that question.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. And just want to share with you that when we first started this program, we actually paid our own staff to tutor folks in the Relay program. And after about a year or two, Relay actually started to provide that as part of their services. And so even though some folks may not pass praxis initially, they do provide ongoing tutoring for our participants, even after they finish their classes with them.
Thank you so much. And I have one more question, a part 2. With regards to cultural competency, what is Relay doing, and is Relay being intentional with that cultural competency piece? with these participants, even though they're already working in their environment where they've already been working, but what are they doing? Are they putting any attention towards that?
That's a good question. I don't have specifics. I know that that is part of their mission, and that's part of the reason why they came to be as an alternate Regis certification. But I can find some more information out for you and let you know.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Paul, is there, I guess we're moving on, right?
Yeah, if there's no other questions, thank you, Dr. Curtis and Nancy team. So the next contract we're going to move to is Achievement Network. And our acting assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, Katie Leonard, is going to walk through that. And I know we do have partners from ANET on the call as well to answer questions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm actually doing this in partnership with our Chief of Schools, Corinne Barney, who's going to talk through. That's okay. But I'm also here just to answer any questions around the ELA scope of work that we're going to be doing with the Achievement Network. We also have representatives from ANET with us as well, in case there's any direct questions. I know we are short on time. They have created also a presentation that we've linked. So I'll turn it over to Corinne to talk through the scope of the work. And then if there's any other questions, we'll go from there.
Thanks, Katie, for the wonderful introduction. So yes, we are here as a continuation of the work that we were previously doing with ANET. And so ANET, or Achievement Network, they work with the school and district leaders to support teaching that is grounded in standards, shaped by data, and built upon successful practices across the country. They've worked over the past year supporting equitable instruction, implementing anti-racist policy and practices, and delivering culturally responsive training. And so if you look at, and you have the slide deck, so I'm going to give you a high level overview since we are short on time. A part of the continuation of the contract this year is working around ELA instruction and the rollout of the K-5 curriculum, as well as supporting high school electives in literacy. And then again, looking at coaching and supporting school leaders around instructional leadership and disconnected to district priorities. Next slide. And if you look at, these are our major goals, and this is where we are focusing. So it is 100% ELA percentage target achieved, and 93% of parents reporting my child is supported in school. So those are the two big buckets of the DME that we are focusing on. And it's really great to report that through the work with the Achievement Network and ANET, last year, 84% of school leaders met their instructional goals. Next slide. Next slide. I already kind of talked about this. Sorry about that. And so, yes, here is again where we're really focusing year two. We're thinking about sustainability. So if we think about last year in the contract, we did include math supports in here in the rollout of Eureka Math across the district. However, with the supports of the Achievement Network, we were able to coach and support teachers, as well as our math coaches and math department. So that way we now have sustainable practices that are built out across the district. And now we can really focus solely on the ELA with the rollout of Springboard in grades 6 through 12. And then preparation for the K-5 curriculum rollout as well. And then thinking about sustainability in year two, last year, all schools had an ANET coach. However, due to the success and support, a lot of the schools have shifted and are now sustaining practices across their instructional leadership teams and their admin teams. So only 19 schools will be moving forward this school year with the Achievement Network to continue the instructional supports. Next slide. And on this slide, you'll see what the scope of the work is, as well as the schools that are listed that will continue the coaching supports to the Achievement Network. Next slide. And here is the scope and cost. So the breakdown, if you look, we have some schools that are going to fall into intensive support. So they will be getting more coaching supports on a regular basis. Then again, thinking of sustainability, we have some that are going to get full supports, which will not necessarily be at the intensive level, but they're starting to release control back to the ILT. And then we have our schools that are sustaining, that are almost there, that still need slight supports, whether it be with ILT, learning walks, reviewing data to drive their PSEAs, and et cetera. Next slide. Here are the goals, again, that I've stated before. So we can go to the next slide because I have 1 minute left. And then our metrics, how are we measuring the progress? So again, assessing the instructional materials for ELA. Are they high quality? Are we implementing high quality ELA instruction through ongoing review of data, learning walks, observations of instructional leadership teams, review of the PSEA and implementation of supports there, as well as participation in the SET meetings this school year to look at data and determine, what professional learning is needed at the school level, what supports does the instructional leadership team need in order to close the achievement gap. Next slide. And again, just going over the different assessments. Next slide. And that is just the overall. So are there any questions?
Like member Darissa Ledger, you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much. If you can please go back to slide 3, which talks about it's our 2024 major goals. So my question with regards to that slide is, it's in number 6, it says 93% of families report my child is supported in school. What percentage of the families participate? Do you know what percentage of the families participated in the survey?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can get it and update it for the board meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. And also, same thing with the students. 62% of this, number 7, 62% of the students feel report I feel connected to my school. What percentage of students responded, participated in that survey? So it would be, good to know how many families and students actually participated, so that, say 50% participated and that was, not, then you get 93% of that. It doesn't give a clear or true accurate reading. You know what I mean? So it would help to know what percentage, actually responded and participated in the survey.
Yes, and I can get that for you.
Thank you so much. Then, and the next one is, if you can move to slide 8. Thank you. So in this one, you mentioned that there were schools that were still receiving full support, or that are going to be receiving full support. Can you identify what schools are receiving support, and also the demographics, so we can see perhaps is there something else that's that may be causing the the retention, or the information not being picked up, or the students not being successful in that area, if there's something else that maybe need to be addressed.
Yes, so I do have that information because we worked in collaboration with the Achievement Network, as well as with principals, and we were provided their feedback as well. So all stakeholders that are involved in this process had a voice. And so we do have the list of who would be under intensive, full, and sustaining. So I can add that to the PowerPoint as well for the board meeting. And then you also would like to know the demographics of the schools as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Do you see Ms. Oliver with a question?
Ms. Oliver, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, AJ, there you are.
No, I got you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. I'm not as good as my colleague, our board member, legislator. My question is, you did mention that some of the schools no longer will receive support, and I wasn't clear on that decision. I think it really goes a little bit into the previous question, though, in terms of how was it decided. So I apologize if I missed it, if you've already presented it, but I just wanted to make sure I understood the decision-making process there.
Yes, so we took into account principal feedback, feedback from the Achievement Network, feedback from the Office of Academics, feedback from EDSLs as well. And so what was occurring was we had some schools that had 3 or 4 coaches, 3 or 4 voices working with them. So they might have had a leadership coach, they have an executive director of school leadership, they had ANET. And so we found that it was getting a little confusing, and that there were too many hands in the pot and too many competing agendas. So we really wanted to streamline the process this year based on the feedback, and give administrators one instructional leader support. So we have 6 schools who are working with Attuned in the Innovation Network. So they will get support from Attuned as well as the EDSL. Then we have the 19 schools that were identified as still needing the Achievement Network and their supports, that high level intensive. Then we had about 4 or 5 schools who are really high performing that EDSLs could support. We have about 5 to 6 schools that have either brand new administrators or they're in their 2nd year. So we really felt that they needed, yes, the instructional leadership, but sometimes they need just in the moment, I'm a new leader, how do I handle this situation support? So they will be getting a leadership coach that will work directly with them. And then we had some schools who will be working with Tepper and Flynn because they have them through a grant and they worked with them last year. So we wanted to sustain that. So therefore, that's why we're still providing the supports to the school, but we're really tailoring it to what their need is. And then we're trying not to create competing agendas.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you for going through that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? I think both my colleagues asked questions, so I think we're okay to move forward.
All right, thank you. So next on tap this morning is we have a contract continuation for 241 Sports. I know I do see Steve and Carrie Boyle on from 241 Sports and appreciate them being here. And also we have several principals on who I think have been partners with 241 Sports. But I do believe Chief of Schools Corinne Barney is going to take the lead on this one as well.
Yes, thank you. So again, I'm going to give you a high leverage overview of the program and then allow time for questions because there are, as you see, 4 schools involved in this. So next slide, please. And the slides can be a little bit wordy. So again, the objective for today is to continue the services at Breakthrough North, Breakthrough South, Webster, and ESM, Environmental Sciences Magnet School. The funding is coming from their SCIG grants and the ESSER funding. Next slide. Yes. So they are hitting a lot of the major goals. And so again, focusing on the reduction of chronic absenteeism, and you'll see later in the slides, their data that shows different areas of reduction or increase. They're focusing on children feeling supported in school, families feeling connected to school, and feeling safe from harm. Next slide. And so it's a lot of information, but 2-for-1 is 2-for-1 Sports is an opportunity for students to grow and physically and emotionally through play. Filled and the power of sports. So they do physical literacy development programs for children and families and communities that focus on building culture, ability, relationship, and enjoyment, blending sports and physical activity, sampling nutritional awareness and practical skills of social emotional learning that will leave children with the competence, confidence, and motivation to be active for life. They aim for overall wellness, equity, and inclusion. Next slide. So if you see, here's just some additional data support that where they surveyed students and families around how they felt the program benefited them. And as you can see, the purple bar is quite large. So they felt that this was very beneficial. And some of the services that they offer are summer camps, before and after school programmings, including Top Self Sports, which is SEL focused, vacation and weekend camps, clinics, coaching training, physical literacy curriculum, and implementation of sports-specific programs tied to long-term athlete development. They also evaluate programming and they consult. Next slide. So if you look, the next 4 slides are going to be the breakdown of what the programming would look like at each of the schools. And you can check out some of the data. So we see that through the 2-for-1 Sports implementation that Breakthrough South was able to decrease their chronic absenteeism, as well as increase their culture and climate data. All 4 schools really loved this program and wanted to utilize this program based on stakeholder feedback. So a lot of the feedback from parents and students were that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for things after school to build community, especially being magnet schools and having families coming from all over the greater Hartford area. They really felt that this was an opportunity to bring students together, support SEL, and then build out fun physical activities. The next slide is Breakthrough North, again, showcasing the increases in data as well as going over the specific programming that they will offer. I know Breakthrough North also incorporated staff. Staff were able to have the opportunity to coach students. So again, building the home school connection through the 2-for-1 Sports. And the next slide, here's Webster. So again, Webster's increase in data as well, and then their specific program that they are going to build out for 2nd through 8th graders. And then the last slide is ESM, and then their goals for the year, as well as their programming. Next slide. Again, this was what I went over. It's the scope of the work and the service information. So we can skip that. And then here again is the connected to the major goals and what the focus would be increasing culture and climate and the reduction of chronic absenteeism, students and families feeling connected to school. Next slide. And then any questions?
Yes, Ms. Oliver.
Hello again. Thank you for the presentation. I noticed that it seems like it's been a successful program. My question is, and I can't remember, and again, I apologize if you did say this, but is it that all students are eligible for the Top Shelf and the other program in the school?
Yes.
Okay. And then my quick piggyback to that is there, I know you have certain schools here that's obviously, focused on these schools. Is there any conversation or consideration about expanding it to other schools?
Yes, so it is open to expansion to other schools through the use of their SCIG grants and funding. I know that the 4 schools here selected this program based on prior collaboration, but also based on the stakeholder feedback and the need to bring after school programming and build out a community partnership.
Thanks. So I'll just end with a quick comment then. I'll just say that while I acknowledge that you're showing the data of improving year over year, and that I'm not saying it's quasi-experimental and all these other things, if it is that it's helping in terms of chronic absenteeism and culture and climate, I highly recommend, especially given where we are with our ESSER dollars, that the district level, we take a look at those dollars and consider expansion into other schools that go outside of the SEIG grant, the SIG grant. And with that, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And that's a very kind way of saying that. But I don't see schools in my neighborhood on this list that desperately need it. And expansion in my mind is not good enough. Like I said, there are schools in my neighborhood where I live, where my kids go, that 100% need this program, and I'm not seeing it, and I want to see it. It like we have to do better. Not saying that these schools don't need it, and I appreciate your explanation, but it's kind of unacceptable that I don't see schools that I certainly know that I drive by every day need this program. I'm going to hand it over to Board Member Francois.
Thank you so much. Can you go to, and thank you for the presentation. That was very fruitful. And I'm going to echo what Chairman Pastor AJ said with regards to, it being in other neighborhoods, other schools. I wish it could be in all the schools, actually, because SEL, enrichment, extracurricular, all of that stuff is so important with regards to social emotional learning, team building, everything, character building, all of that. So my question is, if you can go back to slide number 3, I believe. Yes, slide number 3. So in that slide, you touched upon number 6, like in number 6, you highlighted that 93% of families report, once again, my child is supported in school. If you can speak to, how many families actually participated and responded to this survey, that would give us a more realistic view of how many families are actually feel that their child is being supported. Do you have that information?
I can get it and add it in. I do just want to clarify though. So the 93% and then the 23.8%, those would be the goals for this current school year. So we have not, for example, reducing chronic absenteeism to 23.8%. That is our goal for this year. We ended last year at 37%. So the goal for this year is 93% of families will report my child feels safe in school. But yes, I will, just like I will do for the Achievement Network, I will add in the current where we ended last school year into the presentation for the Board of Education meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. And the next question I have is, there was a mention of summer camp and vacation and weekend programs. How many families participated, or how many children participated in the weekend and vacation? And what did that look like?
I will open that up to one of our school principals to answer.
did you want one of us to answer, or would you like Stephen Carey from 2 for 1 to answer that? I mean, either way.
Yeah, I don't mind just giving a quick sort of feedback on that. So we were part of the Early Start program, and we had a tremendous summer at 3 schools, 3 sites that I think represented 9 schools feeding into those sites. We had over, we had 100 kids by contract as part of our particular program. We did the Super Saturdays only at Breakthrough South last year. I think we had on average 24 enrolled each week, but we will be adding Super Saturdays to ESM this year and we'll be back at Breakthrough South. Part of what we had put in the deck here is sort of what we do across our network, which, we are now a global organization that is centered in Hartford, but, we wanted to just give a scope of the things that we can do. And that's why those other sort of weekend summer camps, things that we do. We actually have a free camp going on in Hartford, only for Hartford students. We're using Annie Fisher School this week in partnership with Active City. And we have, last week we had 69 children enrolled, and this week we have 78 enrolled.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification. And I just have to say, I'm very, I'm in support of this. I wish that I would have been able to, participate in the fencing. I just wanted to put that out there as well.
We are starting it back up at Bushnell Park this fall on Thursday nights. You're welcome to come volunteer and help us out if you'd like.
Well, thank you. I may take you up on that.
Please be in touch.
Thank you, Board Member Francois. And again, I don't want my comments to be misconstrued by any means. It's just I'm very passionate about not just all schools, but particularly the schools in Northeast Hartford. And it's just, I looking at the list, I just didn't see any one of them that that I identify with. And I want to make sure that although, like I said, the schools might not have picked this in their, SCIG or, as a priority for themselves, but at the same time, I want to see these programs. I know as a parent, I look for my son's, activities in our neighborhood. Like I shouldn't have to go to West Hartford to find a quality baseball program. Shouldn't have to go to Farmington Valley YMCA to find a decent basketball program, So I want to make sure that opportunity is extended to parents in their neighborhood. So they don't have to take these drives to unfamiliar communities to get a service like this that our school system is providing. So I'm looking to support this. I'm not saying that I'm not, but I will have a hard time supporting it if there isn't a real effort, to at least let schools say, no, we don't want it, right? And then we have a job to do. But I'm sure there's students, when I go into schools, there's a lot of students that want to be active. And I think, providing this would be great. So, I'll step down off that. But are there any other questions or anything else that you need to say regarding this contract overview? Okay. Mr. Foster.
All right. And thank you for that. The point is well taken, and we will certainly take that back. And, as all the contracts this morning are funded through ESSER, and they're all built into that ESSER spending plan that we shared with you at the committee of the whole last week. But we will certainly, the point is well taken. And as you pointed out, right, the reason these 4 schools happen to be named this morning is because we've used that SEIG and empowered principals to make choices. But I hear you, right? Sometimes at the district level, we need to make some choices as well. And so we'll take that feedback back. Member Darius Ledger, I just wanted to highlight, as Chief Barney said, the data in the slide was the goals for 23-24, but I did put in the chat our response rate to our spring 2023 climate and culture survey for students and families, just so you'd have that information as well. And our last contract this morning is for the language line. And so, as you all know, we've been working to increase the ways in which we're supporting our multilingual families in terms of accessing school and accessing the conversations and documents that they need for purposes of supporting their students. And so I'm going to have Chief Black-Burke share the details relative to the language line contract.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I am cognizant of the time, so I will do my best to get through the information here. So I wanted to begin just by giving a little bit of background in regards to the language line. You can move ahead, Christina, thank you. And so the district, we have been using the language line for interpretation services since 2011. And so that's a really long time, and the language line definitely has been a great partner. Joe Matthews is also on the line and has been on the line with us this morning. So thank you for joining us, Joe. And additionally, the language line does provide 24/7 phone interpretation in over 240 languages. And we actually took some time to do just a field scan to see what other districts are doing. Like, is this the most optimal platform? And as we looked across other districts, indeed several districts comparable to our size, smaller or even larger, are also using the language line and speak to the level of service that is delivered by the language line services. You can move ahead, Christina, thank you. And so I wanted to just provide a little bit of background data. We have access to a dashboard through the language line services to look at calls by week, by month, by day. And so this is just a quick overview here of the volume of calls across the last year. And as you can see, excuse me, on the pie chart over here, that 75% of our calls are for Spanish interpretation. And then there's the breakdown of the other languages that are being accessed. But do want to note that over 240 languages can be accessed through the language line interpretation services. Please note that none of these calls are reported. So there are sensitive topics that are discussed. None of the language line calls are reported. Another question that often comes up, well, do the interpreters, are they able to respond to the questions almost like that EduSpeak? And I often like to say to everyone, and Joe, I'm sure will chime in if needs be, that the interpreters, they go through a intense training program. So they are versed on educational lingo, but the individuals that are there with a family member, the teacher, the SPED director, they're the ones that are really having the conversation, and the interpreter is just really interpreting what the conversation is about. I also wanted to share that this year we are adding video conferencing for school personnel. So as we are doing the phone interpretation, we are also adding video conferencing if that's needed for a PPT, if that would be needed for a parent-teacher conference, that is also going to be available. And lastly, that the language line, as we look to build out our multilingual family supports as a district, we want to ensure that parents and caregivers, they have access to educational conversations. So providing this service is super, super important. You can move ahead, Christina. This is just another breakdown of the number of calls over the years. And as you can see from 2019 through last school year, that definitely the calls have increased, partly due to the pandemic. We definitely saw an uptick in the utilization of the language line, and I'm sure we'll continue to see that utilization increase as we are adding video conferencing and as individuals in our district, teachers, front office staff become more comfortable using the language line services. I believe I already shared that part. Thank you, Christina. And so for purposes of our conversation this morning, we are looking to expand our contract to $140,000 for this particular school year, the July 23rd through June 2024. And again, this is aligned to our priority 3 of just improving transparent and timely communication for our families and across all of our stakeholder groups. And so I'm going to pause there if there are any questions, and again, want to acknowledge that Joe Matthews is with me on the line. if there are any questions. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Board Member Francois.
Thank you so much. And that was a very thorough presentation. I appreciate that. The question I have is with regards to the video conferencing, once you start that, being an educator and having done video conferences in my school district that I work for, there may be times where things are seen and, you know, being mandated reporters, how would you address that, or is that something that's being considered? Because once you add video, you start video, that's opening a whole new world, if you will.
So you're saying like if
And
the interpreter sees something?
And I'm so sorry, Mr. Matthews. I was just waiting just for a process and point of order. Mr. Johnson, is it okay for us to respond?
Yeah, we've been kind of running like that. So
Okay, no problem. So
but
I'll chime in.
appreciate you. God bless
Sorry,
you. Bless you.
Robert's rule all the way over here. Mr. Matthews, I'll chime in and then please extend if needed. But as far as the video conferencing, it would much the same, like if we go out on a home visit, the teacher, the special education director, whomever is going to be conducting that video conferencing, the role of the interpreter is to interpret. That is the role of the interpreter. And so if there is something that is shared or seen by the teacher or whomever is the party that is asking for that video conferencing, then they would follow our district guidelines of what the response would need to be. So that's where I would leave that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I do appreciate this contract because, we have a very diverse community. And so I think communication is always key. And so I appreciate this. At a tune of $140,000, can you just quickly justify why $140,000 is necessary for this? I understand the need, and I understand it's 24/7, right? But can you just elaborate just a little further on the price point and what we're getting, kind of thing?
Absolutely. So historically, prior to the pandemic, the language line contract would range anywhere between $50,000 to maybe $65,000 for a school year. And at that time, the utilization, it was being utilized, but not to the level that we saw during the pandemic. And we came to the board, I want to say twice during school year 21-22 to expand the contract. And during that time, looking at what we came back to the board for the first time, I believe it was for an additional $50,000, making it $100,000. And then we came back again for like an additional $25,000. So over the last 2 years, we've asked for $120,000, and that really has allowed us to get to the end of the school year. At the end of this school year, our contract was for $124,000. So that's about $12,000 a month. If we go back to the breakdown of minutes, because we are charged for the number of calls and minutes. So it's really whatever you're using is what's being expended. And because we are adding video conferencing, that's why we wanted to add a little bit of cushion for $140,000, knowing that the video conferencing, the cost of that is a little bit higher. So that is the, as you said, the justification for that dollar amount is that based on the utilization that we have seen over the last 3 years, that is how we backed into that number, and also adding additional for the video conferencing that we are adding to the contract.
And you feel that this will be a value add for our parents?
I do believe it will be a value add for our families. As a district, we are revisiting how we use the language line. So I know that we will have time and space and place to work with our administrators, to work with our executive assistants. We have ordered materials to be placed in all of our schools so everyone will know and have access to the information that they will need. I'm hoping to give all of our teachers a small card that they can keep with them if they need to make a phone call. They don't have to like call the executive assistant or call the principal. They'll have that information readily available. So we definitely see the utilization will continue to go up. And also in a response to what we've heard from our families is that they want to know that someone is readily available if there isn't someone in the building, but a phone call can be made to this service that is available 24 hours a day to have meaningful conversations at the school level about their children's education.
Cool. All right. Final question. It's 10 o'clock and we got to get up off this thing. So go ahead, Francois. Board Member Ledger.
Thank you so much. I apologize. So I've been speaking to some families, and some of the feedback that I've been getting is that it may be difficult to use or it's a bit confusing. Is there any support for families to kind of like familiarize themselves with the to be comfortable in using the language line, or some type of training at all?
Thank you, Board Member Daristelle Ledger. So, and I'm going to tag Mr. Matthews in also. At the school level, there are displays, there is signage for both the family member as well as the staff member to utilize the language line. So in essence, families, they do need to know once they're in a building that the language line is available. And yes, that level of conversation and outreach communication to families is being done. Mr. Matthews, I'll let you go ahead and talk about how our staff members would need to ensure that families feel comfortable and are able to access the language line.
Sure, we do provide training for all of the staff members. It's about a 20-minute long training session. It goes over how to actually connect with an interpreter and how to effectively work with the interpreter. The parents should not see, they really, I don't believe would need any training whatsoever, because it's just a conversation like we're having right now with the interpreter being in between. They would speak directly to the teachers, pause, let the interpreter repeat what they say. So it's just a regular conversation, but I'm more than willing to include them in any of the training that I do for the staff. So if that's something that's needed to make them more comfortable, I'm all for it. We have all kinds of training materials on our website, like the signage that was mentioned. We also have videos, but really, as long as the staff are trained on how to use it, and it's as simple as dialing a toll-free number, letting us know what language you need, and connecting with an interpreter within seconds. So there's not a lot to it.
All right. All right, I'm going to curve these questions. Thank you, Francois. Don't ask another question, please.
I'm all set.
Chief Blackbird, I know, I'm picking with you. Chief Blackbird, are you, will this conclude your overview?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Mr. Foster, I'm gonna throw it back into your hands just really quickly for any final words, any comments.
Oh, that's the agenda, and we're all set, and we have some follow-ups, and appreciate the thoughtful questions, and we'll follow up on the items that were brought forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And not all of my colleagues were on this morning for this call. So my recommendation is that if there can be a short overview sent out in the next 24 hours of what was discussed here again. One time may not be enough, but I really want to elevate the communication with our board members to limit unnecessary discussion over the dais, and unless it's absolutely necessary. So if Mr. Foster, if we can have something put out in the next 24 hours in board members' emails regarding a high-level overview of what was discussed, with with the question of please submit any questions so we could do our due diligence to answer them ahead of time, so we can go into our regular monthly meeting prepared to do the business of the board. There's also a summary in board docs. I appreciate that. My goal is to over communicate. I can't trust board docs. It's a great thing, but I want to make sure everybody gets what they need so we can be effective. Thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to be on this phone call. I know we rushed through a lot, and I know that there is so many moving pieces. So I truly want to thank each and every one of you for coming on and sharing. And if you feel slighted in any way in your presentation, please forgive us, as we are very limited on time, but also want to respect other people's time. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing everyone at our monthly meeting. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.